What's up? Hey, hello, everyone. Wow. So today we are back going to be talking about Survivor Season 37, David vs. Goliath, Episode 5. So my name is Rachel.
And I'm Alyssa, and you guys may or may not have noticed we didn't get to do an episode last week for episode 4. That was because I was out of town, and none of our friends are watching Survivor, it seems like, so there was no one to guest star with Rachel, which we were super bummed about, but we're going to be talking about a little bit about episode 4 this time, since we didn't get an episode out to you guys last week.
Yeah, it was really surprising because we literally asked like 6 or 7 people to guest star on a podcast with us. And then everyone was either like, A, they don't have time, or B, they haven't been watching this season. And these people are like fans of the show. So it's surprising that viewership is down, I guess, amongst our friend group when the season is pretty decent. Last week's episode was really fun to watch. This week's episode was a ton of fun to watch. And you would think like tribe swap, when it's a 3-2 majority on each tribe, that it would be a pagonging like Ghost Island, but it was not what we saw these 2 episodes. So I am very excited.
Yeah, I'm also excited, and I think my friends who haven't been watching the show, they've heard me talk a little bit about it, or they've heard other people talk about it, and they're like, oh, maybe I should start watching. So I feel like viewership might pick up, at least among our friends, like as the season goes on, and they figure out that the season is actually worth watching, because I feel like last season might not have been worth watching, because I know both of us found it kind of like, eh. So.
Yikums. Yeah, if this were Ghost Island, we would have seen a pretty much straight pagonging when they switched tribes and purple, whatever, had the majority. It's like, bye, Stephanie, bye, Brendan, bye, James. Like, peace out, all the cool people. But last week, we saw the tribe swap. Very exciting. A 3-2 majority on each tribe, like we've said. B quit the season within the first 5 minutes, and there was a lot of emphasis on she is quitting. This is not a med-evac, but she is quitting the show.
I thought it was interesting because, like, I think there was probably more to her speech than just, like, I'm an athlete, so I have to quit. Like, I feel like I would have liked to see more of her reasoning behind her quitting beyond just, like, ouch, it hurts. Because, like, her body is literally, like, how she makes a living. So.
Yeah. It seemed like because it was within the first 5 minutes that this happened, that it was really cut short, and she was probably like talking on the beach about it kind of stuff. There wasn't really any explanation, but like it makes sense. Like, you're an athlete, you need to protect your body. And then it also, I guess, makes sense that Jeff and the producers are like, this person is quitting, we need to not give them a lot of screen time kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that it's a little different because, like, quitting for medical reasons is different than quitting just because, like, you're bored or whatever. And I feel like there is something to be said for the fact that she might have been voted out anyway because she can't perform. But, yeah, they did emphasize a lot that she was quitting, so.
Yeah, I don't know. It's sort of weird, though, because you see all of, like, the medevacs where people are literally crying, saying, like, don't medevac me. You know, I can, whatever, Missy is like wanting to stay there and she's literally walking around with her sling foot cast, whatever. And so to see that versus this where someone is like wrapped their leg and that's it and they're quitting, versus people who are literally crying and screaming, begging medical not to take them out of the game.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things too, though, where like B probably had that initial moment of like, I really don't want to go, but since she had more time to process it and she wasn't forced out, it's one of those things where she probably made peace with it.
Yeah. It just goes to show you don't want people who are recruits on the season because they'll probably put less into it, I guess. You know, sometimes you can get a good recruit, but that was what happened here. So we'll move on. Talking about Alex's move at last tribal council and Natalia goes home. And there's a lot of, I guess, not really backlash, but a lot of talk about it at the end of last week. And I'm like, Alec, at the end of last week, why would you put yourself in the minority? You know, Alec isn't dumb. We see him talking about, he realizes Carl is coming back to the tribe and it's going to be a 3-2 David over Goliath number game after that. I was just really confused, like why. It makes sense. You trust other people more than Natalia, but speaking of straight numbers, might not make that much sense.
Yeah, as soon as they started saying stuff like, oh, it's going to be easy, like, oh, the Goliaths have the majority, oh, all of this stuff, I was like, there's no way that they're just going to straight pagong, because they wouldn't make such an emphasis about the Goliaths having a majority every time if it wasn't going to turn out differently than we thought.
And, like, I'm glad it's not a straight pagonging. It's great TV seeing everyone flip, like, on the numbers. But for Alec, I think at the end of last week, it was very concerning to see him doing this because you're like, okay, you know, maybe not the smartest move. But then come to this week, we see maybe it wasn't such a bad move that, oh, he flipped. He's in the minority of the tribe that he's on now because we see this time the majority Goliaths flip among themselves. And I don't know, if it were Ghost Island, literally they would be sticking to tribal lines so strong. And so I'm glad people are willing to play across tribal lines. So maybe Alec's move isn't as bad as everyone was thinking last week, this week.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of those things where at the time it looks really bad for him, but I think that going forward it is going to be the right move just because if you play so strong to tribal lines, that makes things difficult later in the game if you want to betray people. So,
yeah, and moving forward with people you trust more versus someone who, okay, you started on the same tribe with, but you might not trust as much as, oh, these cool new people you're meeting. And I don't know, like a lot of people were saying if someone is always reassuring or like trying to get reassurance, maybe it means they don't trust you. And that's what we saw Natalia do. She kept asking everyone like, hey, we're good, you know the vote tonight kind of thing. And then that just shows maybe, oh, she doesn't trust them as much because you always have to keep asking if the plan is still happening.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where when people ask if the plan is still happening, I'm like, good on you for making sure that your plan is like solid or whatever. But at the same time, like, I feel like Survivor is one of those games where it's so built on trust, but also as soon as you trust people, that's when things get dangerous for you. And so it's this constant like balancing act where like working with new people versus working with old people has its different sets of risks and rewards. Because it's like working with new people, you don't have that trust yet, but it's also like because you don't have that trust, you're not letting your guard down as much.
Yeah, because it's like, what is this balance where you reassure that, okay, the plan is happening, but not kicking a dead horse that people are annoyed that you keep asking. But, you know, things change so quickly that it's like, where is the fine line between asking enough to make sure your plan is still happening going into tribal versus asking too much that people become annoyed and think you don't trust them because you're asking them so much.
Yeah, because the thing is also, like, if you don't trust people, you can't let them know that you don't trust them because then they're like, oh, you don't trust me? And,
yeah, just not a good dealio. So that's a little bit about last episode. I really loved last episode of the season. Coming into this episode, it was everyone, when the previews came out for this week's episode, were like, why is it called Jackets and Eggs? That's a stupid name. You know, people are off their name game if it's called Jackets and Eggs. Why was there no cool quote? Stuff like that. But then when you watch the episode, you realize that the two central issues this episode were the eggs and the jackets. So starting with the eggs, Natalie made a big scene about cooking the eggs versus not cooking the eggs.
I think it's so interesting because especially as Americans, we get this idea like eggs have to be refrigerated, but most countries don't refrigerate their eggs. And I feel like that definitely skews how we look at this episode, because it's like if you're of the mindset that eggs absolutely must be refrigerated, then it's even worse that they're out on this tropical island with the eggs. But like, I couldn't really understand the whole thing Lyrsa was saying about bacteria. Like, do they start growing bacteria after you cook them? Question mark.
Yeah, I think what people are saying is that boiling the eggs shortens their life. So you want to keep them unboiled, and that's what Lyrsa wanted, was to not boil them all at once, whereas Natalie wanted to boil all the eggs at once. And it was just like, okay, yes, Lyrsa, good, you're went to the cooking school, like great. And then bad on Natalie for not listening to someone who has, you know, the expertise in a field similar maybe to the shelter, where Natalie was bossing people around, bossing Natalia around, and Natalia's an engineer, so she would probably know more about shelter building than other people. And Lyrsa knows more about eggs than other people.
Yeah, Natalie knows more about bossing people around than other people, though. So, like,
she made a fire in this scene. I was like, wow. We see at the start of this scene, she cuts the flint and makes a fire. I'm like, I did not know she's making fires. So I feel like editing is sort of also portraying her in this like bossy light, but we saw her make a fire. So she's doing something out there besides being bossy all the time.
She's doing one whole thing.
And bossing people around. That's a full-time job. That's why she's a CEO.
Honestly, yeah, bossing people around is a full-time job. A job I wish I had.
Exactly. Egg is the second half of the title. First issue of the episode. I don't know. I think Tyson said it in the RHAP eggs, like their thing in Reno. I love Tyson. Oh my God. But he's like, just split the eggs evenly and everyone does their own thing and you're A-okay. You don't have any egg issues anymore if everyone just takes their fair share and does what they want with them. If you want to split it and bang it on your head and not eat it, that's your egg to waste.
I mean, that's fair, but I feel like Natalie's one of those people where if you try to say that, she'd be like, no, 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 we need to be you. So.
Yeah, she was very big on not wasting time boiling in the morning or the next day, whenever. So we need to boil them all now. So second thing was the jacket issue. At first, I was like, it came back from commercial. Then all of a sudden, everyone is fighting over jackets. I was like, what is happening? Did I miss something? So basically, Angelina wants someone's jacket because she's cold. Lyrsa's jacket, Nick's jacket. Really confused at first what was happening. And then Natalie has a great line, is the jacket worth $1 million? And then Nick says it again at Tribal Council. Would have been a great title for the episode. That was just such a good one-liner.
Yeah, I feel like the jacket issue made me more upset than the egg issue, because I agree with what he said about, like, Natalie was basically bullying him into giving her the jacket, because it was like, if you don't give me your jacket, I'm going to vote you out. And Natalie was like, oh, it's just negotiating. And it's like, generally when you negotiate with people, you give them a chance to make a counteroffer instead of just saying, this is what you're going to do.
Yeah, and then it's sort of weird because you're like, give me the jacket or I'm voting you out. You could do what Natalie did this episode and just take the jacket with you. There's nothing forcing them to give you the jacket unless, like a lot of past survivors have said, is you make like deals about jackets and you become friends with these people and then you hope people leave stuff behind or they purposefully leave stuff behind for you after they're voted out, or in the chance that they're voted out, they leave certain stuff behind for you to wear and take and stuff like that. So maybe that was the way to go rather than being so abrasive about things like, give me your jacket or I'm voting you out. Be like, yo, we're buddies. If you happen to be voted out, you know, do you mind leaving your jacket behind? And I can use it because I'm freezing.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of those things too where like they were talking about stealing Lyrsa's jacket and I'm like, that's against the rules, buddy. Like, it made me kind of angry that she was kicking up such a big fuss over the jacket.
I guess. I mean, the elements, they're cold and they really, a jacket would have been nice, I feel like, especially in the rain and all the wet. So it's just pushing them to their limits, not having this jacket. I feel like Lyrsa's jacket was so like wimpy. I would rather have Nick or Natalie's jacket because Nick has the blazer. Natalie's blue one looks a lot like thicker than Lyrsa's, looks like a windbreaker. So I don't even know why they wanted Lyrsa's jacket.
It also annoys me because after making all of this fuss about like jackets, Natalie then didn't give up her jacket when she left. And I was like,
that was an amazing plan by Angelina. If like this was the way things were going down, she knows maybe where the votes are going. She knows the majority is probably voting Natalie out this episode. So she puts a vote on Lyrsa with Natalie in hopes of trying to get the jacket when she's voted out, even though like she knows where the votes are going. She has to act like, oh my God, I didn't know where the votes are going. I'm so sorry, kind of thing. And then she still doesn't get a jacket.
Yeah. I feel like it's one of those things, though, where she can at least explain away that vote and be like, oh, I voted Lyrsa because I wanted Natalie's jacket, which would be in character for her. So
no,
it might not come back to bite her that bad.
Yeah, people might think like, oh, Angelina voted wrong this episode. She's in the minority with Natalie. But I like truly, it doesn't seem that way because it's like, okay, yeah, like she can tell them, or maybe she told them before Tribal, like, hey, I'm going to vote for Lyrsa just because I want to try to get Natalie's jacket. Like, I'm totally on board with voting Natalie, but I want the jacket kind of thing. And maybe she explained that to Mike, Nick, and Lyrsa before. And so everyone was on board with the plan to vote Natalie out. And Lyrsa's reactions were amazing because, like, you never really know where votes are going. So even though they were saying they were voting Natalie, you don't really know. And so, like, I don't know, just the way Jeff read the votes too, I was like, oh, shoot, Lyrsa's going home. And then Mike flips and it's a 3-2. And I'm like, wow. Amazing. It's so good. Like everyone's acting was on point.
Yeah, I feel like if I was Natalie, I would have genuinely been blindsided at that point.
Yeah, and I feel like you can't really knock Natalie for not giving Angelina the jacket because like she said, I don't know, you don't really know if Angelina was a part of it or not. The nice thing would do to be give your friend the jacket because she just stood up for you in the whole tribal council scene kind of thing. But if you want to be petty, you don't give them the jacket because you're like, screw y'all, you just voted me out. You're not going to be warm. And she didn't know who was voting which way, I guess. But nice thing to do would to be give your friend alliance mate your jacket if you're voted out. Ugh.
Yeah. I fail to see how it benefits Natalie not to give someone her jacket. Because it's one of those things where it's like, okay, she's not going to have use for it in the future, like, unless the jacket has amazing sentimental value to her.
I know. She's just an iconic queen who I feel like that scene is going to be popular of like, Natalie, can I have your jacket? And Natalie just straight walks out and then she's wearing the jacket in the exit interview. And I'm like, holy crap, this is so savage. And
Natalie's a baller.
Yeah. And I don't know. I'm sort of bummed like that she is voted out because she was good TV. Yes, she may have been too much at times on the screen, but like she was good TV. And in previews before the season, she was like in the preview shown at the reunion of season 36. So I don't know. I guess production just really liked her and her personality to like have her as such a big character. And I don't know. She got voted out, I guess, early compared to what you would think if she's in all of the previews for the season.
I disagree with you as far as like Natalie being good TV, just because she was so annoying. Like every time she came on TV, I was like, this again.
I mean, I feel like you could easily take her to the end and it would have been very interesting gameplay to see like John drag her to the end, keep her under his wing in wraps and like maybe, mold her to be less controlling of people. And like if John were able to do that, that would be a cool story arc by the end of the game kind of thing. So I'd be interested in seeing how like other people would be able to use her to their benefit, even if like they can't stand her, they would still use her.
Yeah, I feel like she's one of those, but now that she had been used at whatever, she would still be being petty.
Yikes. Yeah, you can't, the CEOs, they're not meant to be used. So going back into the beginning of the episode, we have the reward challenge, the first solely reward challenge of the season. It was great. The challenges this episode were so good. They were both really, really close. I really loved the two challenges this episode. Both so intense also. I was like on the edge of my bed.
Yeah, I liked both of these challenges because while I like puzzles, I feel like sometimes they are a little like boring to watch. Whereas like the challenge they did this episode with the snake thing, I thought it was really good because it was one of those challenges where you could very easily fail. But so it like added interest and it gave people the time to come back as well. So
yeah, I think reward challenge, Kara walking in with the like, oh my God, I got blindsided face. I guess good play on her. It shows like she's still Goliath strong. She was blindsided by the tribal council last episode. And so I feel like it shows to the other tribes like, oh my God, Alec was the one that flipped when she was like standing closest to the other two teams and she was making those very visible reactions to things. I'm like, wow, there is gameplay to be played even when you are waiting for challenges, because I think that's a really great strategy to show others how you're feeling, even though you can't talk to the other tribes, but she can like do that to show her friends that she's like, oh God.
Yeah, it's like kind of a subtle way of communicating to the people on the other tribes, like where she's standing without ever like having to say anything. And then also when she gets back to her camp, she might be able to like play that off as something different because she can still like communicate with the people in her camp.
Yeah, so I thought that was really interesting gameplay. I think standing at the mats maybe is a new way to start making moves on the game of Survivor. I thought it was really funny, Elizabeth with the slingshot with the squirrel hunting. I'm like, this is so cute. You have all like the country-ish or the southern people on that tribe with Elizabeth and Carl with the like boots and the cowboy hats. I'm like, this is so funny. Like, y'all are great.
It's funny because the squirrel hunting thing could have been played for even more laughs, but like no one else on her tribe even like acknowledged that she said something utterly ridiculous.
Yeah, and like she screamed it out too when she hit that target. And I don't know. Also, they were like David Goliath showdown. Haha, like let's beat a dead horse more. Like when Christian talks about the storm, he's like, we're all Davids now, and the Goliath is the storm. I'm like, great production. Let's keep hitting this dead horse into the ground.
Yeah, one of the things I dislike the most about the themed seasons is that they always seem to be like, you can't escape from the theme.
Like, we've switched tribes, it's like the weird tribe names now. It's not David versus Goliath, but okay, people are willing to play past tribal lines, which is great. Not Ghost Island, but we also see Kara throwing Alec under the bus. So makes sense because, you're not in the majority. You need to turn on each other, which like makes sense. I feel like in Ghost Island, even the minority wanted to try to keep sticking together and didn't want to throw each other under the bus. So maybe that's what kept tribal lines so strong. But it was really great to see people are willing to get rid of people on their own tribe, which is great to see. It's Alyssa. I guess. Are you frozen?
Yeah, one of us was frozen. Maybe both of us.
But yeah, I think Davy and Carl, they seemed on board with keeping Kara, then cut to Elizabeth and Kara talking, who we saw Kara, I guess. Elizabeth and Kara seemed very close. Last episode, they were all talking about the horses, which made Natalia feel left out in the third wheel. And then I guess Elizabeth has a good reader. I feel like in previews for the season, she was always talking about how she can read people really well. So she's like, I don't trust Kara. We need to keep Alec because he'd be more loyal.
I thought it was interesting because, like, when we were talking about people flipping, we assumed that it would be the Davids going to the Goliaths to vote out other Davids. But what actually happened was the Goliaths voted out other Goliaths, which I think was the opposite of what we expected.
Yeah. Which, I don't know. It's interesting because Elizabeth wants to keep Alec. We don't really know where Davy, Carl stand with Kara, but like we also hear in the brochacho scene that Dan and John mention Alec as a part of the brochachos as well. So maybe Elizabeth, you know, you don't really know other people's relationships, but maybe Alec does have more fallback plans than these people are thinking. And Alec probably does need people to align with as well. So it's really interesting. And like, how do you vote based on that?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because as viewers, we only get a part of the story. So yeah, I'm interested in seeing like what the other people were thinking and their thought processes and stuff. Like, I'm still trying to figure out kind of what the story the editors are trying to tell through, like, just showing, like, Elizabeth and Kara's relationship in this, you know?
Yeah, because there's I don't know. Kara doesn't have Natalia, but you really don't know who's aligned, and all of these people are from different tribes, so you really can't tell who has more trust friendships with other people, Kara versus Alec. I sort of want to see this tribe go to tribal next episode because I don't want to see Purple Tribe or the Brochachos tribe go to tribal because I don't know. I think this would be very interesting, and I would want to see the Kara Alec thing come to an end before we hit the merge, before we hit another tribe swap. I would rather see one of them go home now rather than taking both of them into the next tribe swap.
I agree wholeheartedly with that, and I don't have anything to add.
So I'm like, Orange needs to lose less next immunity challenge because in the Brochacho scene also, I'm nervous Gabby is going to be voted out soon. Last week we saw her crying to Christian about how she feels left out, all of that jazz. This week we see she might not feel as included on the tribe. There was a secret scene online where she said she felt better with the tribe. She was being more of herself. But then this episode, we also see Dan say that Gabby is probably the first one to go if they went to tribal. So I'm like, no, I don't want to see Gabby go. So I don't want to see this tribe go to tribal. But it could be foreshadowing because Allison in the preview says that it's not the question of whether to blindside Dan. The question is when to blindside Dan. So maybe, you know, he found, since Dan has two idols, it's going to be a James double idol exit next week. And that is the only way I want to see this tribe go to tribal.
Yeah, I think it's interesting just because Gabby's like pessimism about being the first person to be voted out. It's another one of those things where it's been harped on for so long that they're going to be foreshadowing for what happens, or it's going to be the exact opposite of what happens, you know?
Which it's interesting because Gabby crying last episode, it's seen as like, oh my God, like I feel so bad for her. She feels left out on the group kind of thing. Versus Natalia being insecure last episode. It's more like, oh, she's being a whiny, annoying person. So it's really interesting how two kind of similar things of feeling insecure in your tribe lead to so many different perceptions from other people.
I think that it's also like the way that they go through it. Because like Natalia just kind of seemed paranoid, whereas Gabby had a reason to believe that she was on the outs with the other people. And Gabby was like honest with the way she did it, whereas Natalia was just like, you can't be better friends with them than with me.
Yeah, so I guess, insecurities will drive you to two different things. And I don't know. I think the brochachos thing was really funny. Christian like loves it. He is eating it up. He's such a big fan favorite this season too. He's so cute. Like he's in he just has, I don't know. Everyone just wants to be his friend, which I'm like, damn. But I feel like the whole Gabby Christian relationship, people are going to start seeing them as closer as a duo, whatever. You know, Mason Dixon line, they're split up. Now Nick has the rock stars. And so I don't know. I'm worried that the Gabby Christian thing could cause a target for one of them because they, I don't know, they just like seem very close and they look similar. So people might be like, oh, they're definitely an alliance because they look nerdy, which is like sort of crappy, but like, you know.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where we've talked before how in like male-female alliances, it seems to be that they always take out the female to kind of cripple the male.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if that will happen with Gabby and Christian, just because if you want to cut off support for Christian, Gabby isn't like she's his biggest ally, but she's only one of his many allies. So it would be more effective to vote Christian out than Gabby out.
True. And it's just the realization if people realize that, like, they might love Christian. All the guys are bonding with him so well. Haha, bro chachos. Christian is the head of awesome stuff, whatever. So they could just vote. I don't know. I feel like Dan is the person to vote along friendships rather than strategy, which is sort of crappy to say. And I'm like, Dan, our winner picks. Come on. Last episode, he had a scene where he was like, I wish me and Kara were on the same tribe. And I'm like, Dan, stop. It's better you're not on the same tribe.
Yeah, it really is.
So, speaking of Dan, he finds another idol. So Mr. Dan has two idols. I do want to see him voted out with two idols in his pocket. Next week, if purple goes, are they purple? I'm not sure. Yeah, if purple goes, like that would be the way to go. I would want purple or orange to go to try. Are they green? Whatever. I don't know. I would want to see Dan voted out with two or Kara voted out. But Dan finds another idol, Kelly Wentworth and Jeremy-esque style in the challenge. Makes sense. You know, Dan does have an advantage. He knows what he's looking for. So in a lot of Survivor seasons, we see that if you find one idol, it's easier to find another. So that's why like idols are often limited to a select few that find multiple in a season. So all the idol holders are men right now, Angelina. We need to fix that.
Yeah, I'm still not sure how I feel about like the whole like getting one idol therefore makes it easier to find more idols, because that just seems like it seems unfair, but I can't articulate why it seems unfair.
Yeah, I also wrote in my notes, is it fair ? Because I would presume that they're green because they have the new camps. So I would presume that green tribe, since they made the new camp, everything like that, and are a new tribe, that this idol clue was only at this camp. And the other two camps didn't get another idol clue because their idols were already found. So they placed this clue for this challenge. If it's not found, presume they take it and then hide a new one for next week's challenge kind of thing. But is it fair that like this new camp's idol is a riskier idol than just finding a plain idol like Dan found a few weeks ago or like Davey found? Because finding an idol at camp when no one else is looking, we saw Davey find it alone, so no one knows he has it. Dan is stupid and let everyone know he had it. So is it fair that this one is riskier to find?
I mean, I don't think it's really a question of whether or not it's fair, just because, like, you can play and win the game of Survivor without, like, getting an idol. And since an idol is a bonus, I don't think it matters whether or not it's fair the way that you get them, you know?
Yeah, that's true, because it's valid. You can win, technically, without an idol. It's just better to have advantages, I guess. But it's sort of crappy if someone can find an idol like whoop-de-doo in the forest or in a coconut versus I need to dig under my tribe's camp while everyone is always at camp to find this idol. I don't know. It's just interesting gameplay on how you have to deal with like getting people out of the area that you want to look for the idol. But I don't know. It's not like a bad thing. I just think it's very interesting how these different things you really have to weigh the pros and cons, which you would want to find a normal idol rather than having to pick one up under your camp, whatever.
I mean, I think it's also like as the game progresses, it would make sense that it would therefore be harder to get an idol, just because it's like you don't want everyone being able to find idols super easily, like right before idols can last be used, because then you have an advantage getting. So
yeah, rip 3. I just think if they're going to do an idol a certain way, they should make them all either like in a challenge or something like that, because then you see like Jeremy's idol, the second one he found, it was you just have to go to some light in the middle of the forest in the middle of the night. I'm like, that versus risking it during a challenge, like pick one way or a few ways rather than having them all, I don't know. That's just me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it makes sense that it becomes progressively harder. I feel like I would be more annoyed if at the beginning they had to like find it in challenges or whatever, and then it was just hidden at camp, you know?
No, yeah, like I think they should all be the same equal difficulty or same equal level of easiness to find the idol. Because I don't know. It's like everyone else didn't have to do it, but then it's like if you want the advantage, you have to do it, but whatever. It's like I think idols at the challenges are cool, but then it's also like, nobody is paying attention. People, Jeremy, Kelly Wentworth have said, no one's really paying attention. Everyone's focused on the challenge, so they don't notice you doing this sketchy stuff kind of thing. I guess Troy Zan found an idol too, also during a challenge. Like, everyone is so hype.
Yeah, and it's like, because the challenge directly impacts your future, you're definitely paying more attention to that than like what someone who's not doing the challenge is doing.
Yeah, especially like this when the sticks were behind, everyone's looking at a puzzle, everyone's looking at the snake maze thing. You can just step back. We saw Kelly Wentworth step back. Troy Zan, when their tribe won, just bent down, got it kind of thing. I don't know. No one's really paying attention unless you take such a long time to grab it. Then you've screwed yourself over, and that's your issue.
Yeah, I feel like it's actually like we think that it's hard to do it, and I think it's actually harder for girls than guys to get immunity idols and challenges because girls are expected to like be in their bikinis. So
see, look, another issue. This is making it unfair for females to find idols or people in general. We saw Dan stick it down the front of his pants. No one would question it. But if you saw a lump on a girl, you'd be like, what is that?
Yeah, but I forget where I was going with that. But
Dan has power now. No one knows that he has the second idol. Probably everyone knows that he has the first idol because we've seen more people talk about it. So I think it can be interesting. I'm hoping Dan plays them well or plays them in a way that's useful and impactful on the game. Or if he's going to be a dingus, get voted out with 2 of them. I want to see that happen, or play them correctly and screw other people over and crush all of their hopes and dreams. Either way.
James would be so happy if someone else got voted out with 2 idols in their pocket.
Like, I just like watching people's reactions and like their hopes and dreams with an idol in their pocket. So good.
Yeah, I also think though, like, the worst thing is when an idol is played wrong, because then it's like, that was a waste. The best thing is when an idol is played like perfectly.
I still watch the Andrew Savage vote out. Like, just search it on YouTube. It's so good to watch. If you're ever feeling down, you can make yourself happier by watching that. If you're ever feeling sad, do not watch Malcolm get voted out or Suri get voted out of Game Changers because it's so depressing to watch. But the Andrew Savage, Kelly Wentworth idol vote out, so good to watch.
The one where like Tyson votes out himself.
Tyson. I love Tyson. Oh my God. So it's just so good. I think everything this season, they have done it all, really. And it's only the 5th episode. They have the storms, they have the medevac, they have a quit, they have multiple idols found, they have an idol nullifier freaking in play. That's crazy. And they were evacuated this episode. They came back. All of their camps are ruined. I was like, this is sort of funny. Like, what if producers just came in also and knocked everything down to make it look more hectic? That's some behind the scenes I want to see.
Honestly, same. Like, I know I hate it when people are like, oh, Survivor's fake, but I wouldn't mind if that was real.
Yeah, I was like, let's go in and like screw these up some more. That's so funny. So that was this episode. I am looking forward to next episode. It's just been such a good season. I look forward to Wednesdays every single week, the highlight of my week. I'm sad they're so far apart. Like, ugh.
Yeah, I feel like the thing is, on Wednesdays, I'm always like, wow, it's already Wednesday. But then every other day of the week, I'm like, oh, I wish it was Wednesday.
Yeah, it's coming around. I am ready for the merge, ready for some shiz to go down. So thank you all so much for watching. Leave some comments. Who do you think? Do you like Natalie? Would you rather have Lyrsa go home? Last week was Alex move good, bad? I'm so excited.
Do you guys think that B should count as a quitter? What would have been a better episode for this title than Jackets and Eggs? There's so much to say, and we hope that you say it all in the comments down below.
Yay!
So we'll see you guys next week for another episode. Until then,
bye!
bye.